Good morning and afternoon. It's Wednesday, 9 a.m. Pacific. Welcome all to the Sharing Show. I'm Kane, and I'm joined today with David, better known as the Workday Sharing Guy, Kelly, Logan, Teresa, and special guests.
Thank you, Kane. Can you tell us the most important thing about the Zoom chat?
Absolutely, Logan. So the most important thing today, when you're using chat, make sure you interact with everybody on the show, so panelists and attendees. When you go to send a message, there is an option there to make sure that you select all panelists and attendees. That way we can all interact and join in. So with that said, let's start the show.
That's great. So we'd like to test your chat. So once you check your default and set it to all panelists and attendees, I want you to enter your interest in being part of David's calc field experiment.
Okay, yeah, let me jump in here, Logan. It's like we finally got to the point that we've got an experiment here to help people learn calc fields. If you know Excel, if you don't know Excel, we also have a path for you, but we're focusing now on those who know Excel. Thanks, Logan.
So those of you, I think you've already seen my bubble, but YE for yes and you know Excel. YN, yes, but you don't know Excel. Maybe and you know Excel, put me. Maybe and you don't know Excel, MN. Calc field, you would put CF if you want to say no thanks, I'm already a calc field guru. And no thanks, not at this time, just put NT. And then I'm going to have you enter the total number of Workday open enrollments you've done. So if this is your very first Workday open enrollment, just put 0. Last year was your first 1. If you've done 2 or 3 or 4 through 7, but less than 8. And if you've lost track of how many open enrollments you've done with Workday, just put 8+, and we'll know you are a veteran. Now we'd like to welcome Kelly to the show. Welcome, Kelly from Dallas. She's going to be our co-host today.
Hi, everybody. My name's Kelly. I have about 8 years of Workday experience, mostly with the benefits focus. I began my Workday journey implementing HCM and benefits with a Workday partner, but now I'm a consultant with a team of consultants. Our goal is to make sure that customers are getting the most out of Workday. We're a team up HR. In addition to the benefits, I also focus on HCM, absence, payroll, time tracking, so kind of a Jill of all trades, if you will.
All right, Kelly, or Jill of all trades. So wait, so you've done over 8 years of Workday, so you've done 8 open enrollments.
Actually, probably quite a few more than that, because I actually help multiple customers every year. And as we're approaching open enrollment season this year, if anybody on the line finds themselves in need of help, just reach out to me.
Awesome. Thank you, Kelly. I want to point out to people on the sharingshow.com, there's a little video of me and Kelly, and I'm laughing for no reason really, other than, okay, underneath you'll see community links. You'll see later in the show, we're going to talk about open enrollment share-a-thon from last year and the activity we had in the chat. And there's also Brainstorm coming up. So if you want to know where Floyd's Brainstorm is, you'll see a link right there from the sharingshow.com. Then there's a list of 5 questions. Karen, sorry, we don't have time to get you on the show, but we'll highlight your questions here in a second. So you go to content, themes, and then benefits. And then you'll see those 5 questions. And again, Karen, there's a lot here. So what we'd like you to do, Karen, and everyone who could see this, you could either, well, there's a lot here, Karen. So go to thesharingshow.com. If you've got any comments, I'm going to let you kind of quickly look here. And in the chat, you could put Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, or Q5. If you got any more additional questions for Karen who asked these questions, or if you've got answers perhaps.
Thank you, David. So our themes for the Sharing Show, today we're working on open enrollment and benefits. And on the 2nd of September, we're going to go to 2020 R2, and then followed up by advanced comp. And then September 30th, we're looking forward to see what you have. What would you like to do?
So here's what we're going to do on September 30. So we're going to have a share-a-thon. It was previously called and still called the Pre-Rising Share-a-thon. So there's been some changes, but the show must go on. So at the very end of September, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, September 29, 30, and then October 1, we're going to do our Pre-Rising Share-a-thon on thesharingshow.com. Register for the Pre-Rising 2020 Share-a-thon. So it's a customer share-a-thon, customers sharing with each other. We did this 3 years ago in Chicago, then we did it in Vegas, then we did it in Orlando, and now we're doing it from home, as everybody knows why that is. So you will see when you register, you have options. You want to share, you want to ask, you just want to listen in. It's your first share-a-thon. And then after you say if you want to share or whatever, you get to also specify the level. You might have something you want to share with all levels, or we're being a little bit smarter here. We're going to have like separate beginner, intermediate, advanced on the shares and the asks, and we're going to group you together. It's the ultimate, I'm sitting here at home, but I'm having fun as if I was at Rising at a table with a bunch of other sharing fans. Okay, so I had mentioned this open enrollment share-a-thon from last year, and last year's open enrollment share-a-thon, 26 comments, but this is the very first comment from me. It was a very active chat session. Kelly was again, in a way, that co-host or lead of that a year ago open enrollment share-a-thon. To give you an idea of how many chat messages there were very few actual shares. It was mostly questions and a ton of chat. So feel free to be using the chat throughout. And at the very end, just a heads up, we're going to go long. We're probably going at least 10 minutes long, maybe 15 minutes long. But at the very end, if you didn't see the LinkedIn message, at the very beginning of season 2, we said, I'm giving away 4 Apple Watches. One of the Apple Watches went to somebody who picked the day that Workday went over 200. That's not the day. That is the day that it hit 200, but it's 200 and a penny. So that wasn't it. It's to the left of this. It was somebody's birthday back in February, and that person won. Well, it turns out the first 2 winners are the same person. She also won the Kahoot. So she's giving away her second Apple Watch when Workday crosses over 200, which again was going to maybe be today, but you'll see the calendar on the bottom left. Okay, so now we're going to do one today. And again, if you don't know about like the LinkedIn group, go to important links, join the LinkedIn group, and then you would see like I make a mention of Apple Watches.
Thanks so much, David. So what's next on the agenda?
Up next, we're going to welcome Kelly back.
Today, we're here to talk about Workday Open Enrollment. What I've done is compile kind of my top 10 open enrollment tips and tricks. We're going to work our way through this list throughout this show and address questions and shares that we have gotten along the way. So my number 1 tip, these aren't necessarily in order, but I would say that this is number 1, especially as you're thinking about and preparing for open enrollment, is take the time now to review any pending benefit events, including pending EOI, prior to launching your open enrollment. So make sure that you have cleaned up any people who maybe have requested an event, initiated an event, but forgot to complete it, different things like that, because those can definitely sometimes muck up the open enrollment process when employees end up with multiple benefit events in their inboxes. So some helpful reports for doing that cleanup is running that benefit event status report. It's got several different ways you can filter that. There's a task to finalize open benefit events. So if you find that you have a lot of open events, you can actually run that task and finalize them or move them to that completed status all at once. Manage evidence of insurability. That report allows you to see who is still pending EOI and go ahead and mark those as either complete or approved or denied. Terminated employees eligible for benefits. That's a good report for identifying those terminated employees who might still be eligible for benefits, and then just taking a quick look at your benefits eligibility by benefit group or specific worker, just to make sure that all those things are lined up.
Okay, Kelly, are there several reports actually, and these are just like your 5 favorite? I mean, are there any other reports you want to mention, or this is like a good starting point?
I think this is a good starting point, especially that first one if you're looking for any open events sitting out there before launching OE.
Thanks so much, Kelly. What's next on the agenda?
Up next, we would like to welcome Diane from Florida. Welcome, Diane.
Okay, Diane, if you're talking, you're on mute.
Okay, so I'm a new user since March, and we're starting to plan for open enrollment, which is actually, we do our open enrollment in February. So like just thinking ahead a little bit. So I'm interested in knowing like what are the common pain points before I start. And I guess this was a good segue, these reports that Kelly mentioned. And then, the woman who was doing my job before had put together an SOP for open enrollment, and she only closed once. But as I was looking through some of the community posts, I see that other organizations close continually throughout open enrollment, and I'm interested to understand why.
Thank you, Diane. What we're going to do is take to the chat. Now, Kelly might just answer some of these, but the whole idea is you got a whole bunch of customers. You're not alone. You should know lots of people going through open enrollment for the first time. So take to the chat. People feel free to jump in, and let's keep going.
All right, so my second tip is if you are adding new plans for your open enrollment this year, there is a task in Workday or a feature to leverage plan mapping. So let's say you are adding a new life insurance provider, and maybe the plan benefits are staying the same, and you want to just roll everybody from the old plan, let's say Guardian as an example, and you're rolling to Lincoln this year, and everything is staying the same about those plan details, then once you have that plan set up, you can leverage the plan mapping feature to just roll those employees into the new plan. So the plan mapping functionality is located on the benefit group setup. So if you go to edit benefit group, and then there's a tab for plan mapping. And so you can see, this particular example is a dental plan. So I'm mapping my Sun Life Dental to my Aetna Dental. And so that will basically take the enrollments, if someone was enrolled in the Sun Life basic plan for employee only, then in the new plan year, they will be defaulted into the Aetna plan. And then of course, they'll have the opportunity to change that if you give them that, et cetera. Right, so a great way to kind of take some of that work out of launching a new plan.
Thanks so much, Kelly. What do we have next on the agenda?
Up next, I believe.
Is this Chitra?
Yes, Chitra.
Chitra, welcome. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Okay, welcome back. Okay, Chitra.
So we have employees submitting their benefit elections during the open enrollment, and a lot of the employees go back and change their benefit elections. And we've been always asked by the benefit teams that once it is finalized, can it be emailed as a PDF to the employee saying this is the last one? Because there are certain times after we finalize open enrollment, employees come back and say, oops, I think I made a mistake, but they don't check it up until much later. So if we have like a PDF or something saying this is what has been finalized, then they can come back quickly and say, oops, I think I made a mistake here. So is there a way to have, after finalizing the benefit election, sent out as an email, PDF attachment to an email?
This is a great question. Kelly, did you have some background here? Was this discussed on community at some point, or any hints on this one?
Yeah, I think this has been a hot topic for a while for benefits, as far as Workday having the ability to just automatically generate these statements. The statement, once the employee has submitted their open enrollment elections, is available in Workday. But as our guest has pointed out, sometimes you want them to have that hard copy. And I'm seeing in the chat some people discussing, sending out hard copies of that. So I don't know if somebody else wants to share maybe their process in the chat for sending out those benefit elections by mail or hard copy, or if somebody has a suggestion for how they get those out to them via email. That would be great.
Okay, yep, thank you. The chat is quite active, as we were anticipating. Chitra, we're running a little bit behind there. This is a pretty big one. Can you summarize this one? Because we do have advanced comp coming up. The next show is 2020 R2, and then the next show after that is advanced comp. But do you want to just do a quick overview of this one?
We have the after the merit is final. So merit is finalized for effective December 1st, and the open enrollment is effective 1/1 of the next year. And we update the benefit annual rates for everybody once the merit is finalized. And what happens is, during the open enrollment, everybody chooses their premium based on their current salary, and then we update it later and things like that. Once the merit is finalized, we run a report, get whoever was part of the merit process, and then update the EI using a EIB, all their benefit annual rates. Is there a way to get, is there a way to add a step within the compensation, initiate compensation review process itself that is like now I think with the R2, they have the new change benefit elections, which can be added as a batch process. But is there a way that we can call an integration, which will give the output of the merit basically?
Okay, thank you, Chitra. And thank you for doing My Name, My Voice. Even though I got your name wrong at first,
That's fine.
I've listened to My Name, My Voice of you saying that several times. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Kelly, we're back to you.
So my third tip is to create a new or update your existing benefit plan year. So typically each year you're going to want to have a plan year that's a new plan year in Workday that corresponds to your benefit plan year. So that task is create or edit benefit plan year definition. Typically in the US, we recommend creating a new plan year each year, especially if you have spending accounts or plans that expire annually. And my only other tip here is to exercise caution in how and when you remove old plans from an existing plan year, because once you remove a plan from the plan year, it is removed from employee visibility. So if you've done that too soon, then you may raise some questions.
Great tip. Thank you, Kelly. What's next on the agenda?
Up next, we're going to have Rita from Chicago. Welcome, Rita.
Hi, my question is this is my first time doing benefits open enrollment configuration and just wanted to know best practices. And I think you're doing that right now. You're doing a great job.
Do you also want to ask about the company splitting or?
Oh yeah, well, our companies splitting. So we have to create two different benefit plans. Has anybody ever did anything like that? From the same, we're using the same tenant right now. We're working with Workday right now to figure out how we're going to split the tenant and all that. But for open enrollment, we're going to be using the same tenant.
Okay, thank you, Rita. Take to the chat, and then every time we're intermixing here, Kelly with her tips with your guys' questions. Kelly, if you want to give Rita a nudge in the right direction, but otherwise we could keep going, and I think there'll be several people in the chat who have experience with that.
Yeah, so it sounds like Rita, it sounds like you've got a lot of work on your hands. So good luck.
Thank you.
The benefit open enrollment in Workday, as you may know, or most of you know, is run by a benefit group. So it sounds like you may be looking at multiple benefit groups with their, I don't know if you're offering new plans to the different companies. The plans are going to be different.
Yes, they're going to be different.
Yeah, so I was going to say, then you may have different benefit groups with different benefit plans. But the good news is even with multiple benefit groups, you can still launch and initiate those at the same time in Workday and run them if they're running, parallel or things like that. So, so yeah, that's my tip, at least for right now. You're welcome. Our number 4 is, my number 4 tip is to review and update your open enrollment event and enrollment event rule. So the enrollment event type in Workday for open enrollment has its own, so it's the open enrollment event type, and then it's your benefits groups are tied to that enrollment event rule. So my tip here is to make sure that the coverage types that you're including in your open enrollment event type, so for simplification, medical, dental, and vision, that those same coverage types exist on your enrollment event rule as well. So you can run into some issues if you only have, let's say medical and dental on the event type, and then medical, dental, and vision in the enrollment event rule, or vice versa. The enrollment event rule, in conjunction with that event type, drive the behavior of open enrollment. So which plans are displayed, what enrollment options are available to the employee, et cetera. So this is just a screenshot of that open enrollment event type. I've got all my, you just want to make sure that what's listed in that event type matches what you have on your Start Wave Coverage tab in your enrollment event rule. And also, did those two match? And then also on your coverage rules. So on the coverage rules tab in the enrollment event rule, this is where for open enrollment, you can say, I want my FSA plans to default to waive because we're starting everybody over every year. And then I can have all of my other plans that I want to, bring forward what they had from the previous year, want to default those to their current elections. And then maybe things like my basic life or EAP that I want to have included for visibility purposes. We're not allowing any changes, but we are, we want to display that. So those would be defaulted to the current election. So you just want to take a look at that. Most of the time that doesn't change too much from year to year, but it's always a good idea to review that periodically.
Thanks so much, Kelly. What do we have next on the agenda?
Up next, I believe we'd like to welcome April from Boston.
Hey there. So the question that I have, or the issue that we have is with extending coverage to the new benefit plan year. So the scenario is we have employees who terminate in the current year, but we need their benefits to continue into the following year. Today, the termination cancels their open enrollment and their benefits for the next year are removed, despite the dates that we put in the extend benefits functionality. Is there a way to automatically extend that benefit coverage into that new benefit plan year? Today, I think we're editing the eligibility rule for the specific people. So a better, I would love to hear best practices on how to solve for that.
All right, April, thank you. I know we met many years ago at Rising, and I think your question is one in which maybe not everyone's going to jump in, but hopefully there's at least a few people here on the chat who will be able to help you out.
Thank you.
Okay. Review your open enrollment business process. So this is particularly applicable for those people that might be doing their open enrollment for the first time after implementation. A lot of times you've been delivered kind of the standard open enrollment setup, business process setup, depending on the type of implementation and who implemented you. So you want to take a look at that open enrollment business process. So open enrollment does have its own business process that you can configure. And this is where you're going to decide whether you need an approval step. A lot of times I've seen historically that the standard one will have an approval step, which isn't necessarily a best practice. You don't necessarily need to approve every single open enrollment event. Once the employee submits it, you kind of are doing that in mass, as that's going along. So you may want to take a look and see if that's there and maybe remove it or discuss it. You can also leverage this business process to push out documentation and post open enrollment activities, like if you require evidence of insurability, that will be there, or you could add a step there for employees to submit their documentation or go to a link to access it. If you have additional forms that need to be reviewed, additional to-do steps, etc., you can put that on the business process. You can also leverage embedded analytics here to provide current enrollment, plan documents, links to other resources. So basically, don't forget about your open enrollment business process.
Thanks so much, Kelly. What do we have next on the agenda?
Next, we'd like to welcome Floyd back with a brainstorm. Welcome, Floyd.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
Floyd.
Okay, I had emailed this to David earlier this week, and he suggested that we mention it on the show, but it was actually came from a Q&A forum question from another customer. They were wanting to actually see cumulative numbers in matrix reports, and one thing that I had mentioned to them that you can do a certain amount of that with stacked charts of different types. But there's a piece of that that's really missing from what they were wanting to do and what seems useful, and that's to actually, when you click on a segment of a chart, to show not only the number for that segment and perhaps the percentage if you're doing a 100% chart, but the cumulative number and percentage up to that point that is. And there's a couple of slides, I think, that follow this that show that in more detail. So this was just a sample report that I did quickly off of job applications, but it could apply in any context where we had added year and month in the rolled up number of job applications. And that kind of renders in this case, a stacked column chart that looks like this. So when you hover over a segment there, you only see the number for that segment. So what I was asking is, in this case, since it's not 100%, that you see not only the 2 for that segment, but you see what the cumulative number is up to that point. And that's just showing that on a 100% chart, it should not only show you the number and the percentage of that segment, but the rolled up number and the rolled up percentage of that segment as well. And that's just showing that that happens with other types of stacked charts, in this case a stacked bar chart and a stacked area chart and a 100% area chart. So I don't know to what extent Workday is able to change the charting engine they use, but if they could add that, that would be quite useful, I think. And that's what I had.
Okay, thank you, Floyd, for sharing that brainstorm. And I know that on LinkedIn and community, I mentioned that as well near the start of the show, you're going to want to hold on to the end if you can, because we're giving away an Apple Watch here on a Kahoot. So we have, Kelly has the last half of her open enrollment tips and tricks. Then we're going to thank our sponsors, our co-sponsors. And then that Kahoot at the end is for an Apple Watch for the winner.
Thanks so much, David. So what do we have next on the agenda?
Welcome back, Kelly. You got your second half here.
All right, great, thanks. So my next tip is to be sure to work with Payroll to update your payroll calendar or period schedule in Workday. So you may want to consider doing this if the calendar is set, doing this prior to testing, because this is particularly important for how you are calculating those remaining periods for your FSA or spending account deductions. So there are also some other deduction options that live on the benefit group setup that give you some more flexibility around how those deductions are configured. So if you look at the edit benefit group, and down at the bottom of that section, there is a HSA or spending account deductions section, and you have some different options like calculating the remaining periods as of the period end date versus the pay date, including pay periods that end before the deduction begin date, and then adjusting that final pay period deductions in Workday to meet annual goals. So all these were introduced to kind of help with accuracy as far as getting the correct year-to-date amounts on those spending account deductions. Okay. And my tip number 7 is to include testing the coordination of events behavior in your open enrollment scenario testing. So Workday processes events in the order in which they are the effective date order. So when you are launching open enrollment, you may want to use the exclude employees with waiting periods checkbox on that open enrollment initiation test if you have waiting periods for benefits. So if you have a like a 90-day waiting period, so you may not want to include those employees that start in November, let's say, in your open enrollment that's happening during that same time, because it would not necessarily be relevant for them. So that's a way to exclude those folks. Like I said, Workday processes events in the order by effective date. So you want to check the coordination of events section on your enrollment events to drive that behavior. And then you may also want to consider updating communications to employees during open enrollment about current plan year changes, just a reminder of like things, how that will work. So if you have a birth or adoption or marriage or something that happens towards the end of the year, just a reminder, that they'll be able to make that election, but then they'll also need to take into account their open enrollment. And then there's also a task on the open enrollment status report to add employees to open enrollment, so you can check that to add eligible new hires or other folks that may become eligible for open enrollment. So this is the on that initiate open enrollment task, that checkbox at the bottom that I was talking about to exclude employees with waiting periods. So depending on when you run open enrollment and when that effective date will be, you may want to check that box so that new hires who don't need to make elections in the new plan year, because they'll do it for their new hire benefits, don't get an open enrollment event. And then this is on the benefit event type. So the example is birth or adoption of a child. There's a section for coordination of events. So you can check those boxes to do not reprocess future events or not to reprocess, or if it does reprocess, how many days do you want to give the employee to enroll? So it's a good idea as you are going through your open enrollment testing to test out a couple of these event types and make sure that it's behaving the way that you expect it to. If it's not, then you may want to come back and take a look at these event types and see if they are configured appropriately. Right. Number 8 is to consider writing a custom report to help audit enrollment. So the open enrollment status report is a standard Workday report that is available and very useful, obviously, kind of your command center for open enrollment, if you will. But it doesn't necessarily give you all of the details that you might need to audit your enrollment during open enrollment and afterwards. So you might want to consider writing a custom report. The business object, or a good business object to use, is that enrollment events for benefit group. And you can add prompts for the event date, the type, and the status. Kind of a quick screenshot of a sample custom report. But you can see that you can add fields for like the electronic signature, who signed it, when it was signed, if EOI was required, and also any other business process steps or to-dos awaiting action. So if you had added some additional steps to your business process, you can include that in your report to see what's still outstanding on your open enrollment. And my tip number 9 and 10 are kind of very closely related, but number 9 is when you are ready to close open enrollment, make sure that you're really ready to close. So closing open enrollment removes that task from the employee's inbox. So it brings it back out of the employee's inbox. They're no longer able to see it or make edits to it, but the benefit partners and admins can still make changes from the status report. So it enables you to take that time to audit those enrollments and make changes on behalf of the employee if you need to. Finalizing open enrollment commits those enrollments to the system. So then they're reportable via the integrations, and any changes at that point will have to be done via a correction. So what my number 1 tip here is, once closed, you can't relaunch open enrollment without resending and kind of starting over again. So once you've closed it and you've pulled it out of those employees' inboxes, even though you as the administrator can go in and make changes, you can't put that back into the employee's inbox. So that's why I just say make sure that you are really ready to close when you close. I have I've worked with several customers who will do what they call a soft close, if you will. So they'll say, they'll tell and communicate to employees that open enrollment is closed, let's say on Friday, but they don't really, from an administrative perspective, actually close it until Saturday or maybe Monday. So that way it gives them time, hopefully employees are actually wrapped up because they think that's the deadline, but the deadline when they actually hit the close button in Workday is not till maybe a little while later, giving them some more flexibility. And then the final note there, if you are closing on a Friday, consider including notes in your communication to employees about the Workday scheduled downtime.
Okay, Kelly, this seems like a pretty important one. And there are a number of people said they're doing open enrollment for the first time. So we haven't been reading your pictures, but for sure, you want to avoid your favorite manager saying, too soon, too soon.
Yes,
love it.
Exactly. All right. And last one is, you'll need to, this was a question that came earlier in the show today, but you'll need to close and finalize open enrollment multiple times to capture employees who have been added to open enrollment or have had events that cause open enrollment to reprocess. It's not always a one and done. It's closed at the end of the window. If you've had employees that had life event changes that occurred during your open enrollment window, then that may cause that open enrollment event to open back up again for them to rework. If you've had new hires or people that you've added or removed, then you may have to close and finalize open enrollment multiple times. And you can use the open enrollment status report to monitor that. And then you'll just check for any open enrollment events that need to be closed or finalized. I say through the end of the year, but that really depends on your population and the events that go on and how much activity there is. I have heard from customers who do it well into the new plan year. So it's just something to keep an eye on and monitor that open enrollment status report.
Okay,
Thank
Kelly.
you so much.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
We'd like to thank our co-sponsors now and make sure you stay on for our Kahoot.
So our first co-sponsor we'd like to thank is Humanity. Humanity is a Workday certified and approved employee scheduling software. Thank you, Humanity. And we would also like to thank Good Time. Good Time interviewing scheduling platform allows you to get the most of Workday recruiting by enabling recruiting teams to provide personalized, exceptional candidate experience at scale, improving hiring decisions, costs, and time to hire. Thank you, Good Time.
Okay, thank you to all of our co-sponsors. For people who haven't done this before, you could do this on a phone or you could do this on a computer. Make sure you open up to kahoot.it. It's not kahoot.com. So once you get to kahoot.it, it will ask you for a PIN. So I will watch the chat. Let us know in the chat if you're not sure what to do. The PIN is 312081. 312081. And we have over 100 participants. Whoever shows up first on the podium is on the top spot. That is the winner of the Apple Watch. Unless Marilyn, if you win for a third time, maybe you go ahead and keep it. All right, what standard report, what standard report can you run to find how many people have an open enrollment in progress? Red is enrollment count. Blue is there isn't a standard report. Yellow is benefit census. Green is open enrollment status report. Okay, just about everyone got that one right. It will tell us who's in first, second, third place, maybe up through 5. Eric, Amber, Anthony, Jen, and Chris, welcome back to many of you. Okay, when did Workday release the ability to complete open enrollment on mobile? Was that Workday 31? Was it Workday 2020 R1? You can't do open enrollment on mobile. It's a trick question. Or Workday 32? Okay, a little bit under half, maybe a third of you got this right. That was Workday 31. We understand there's some guessing going on. That's just part of the game. Leah, or L-E-A, Sylvia, Chris, Suze, and LLRD. We have several questions, I think 5 total. So stay with it. How many benefit groups can have an open enrollment in progress at one time? 1, up to 4, as many as you need, up to 10. How many benefit groups can you have an open enrollment in progress at one time? Most people got this, as many as you need. So now it starts to become a race of time. You get more points if you answer quicker. Leah, you're still up top. Chris M, second place, not too far behind. LLRD, Suze, and JAS, or Jazz. All within 103 points of each other. What does EOI stand for? Evidence of insurance. Equal opportunity insurance. Eat only ice cream. Evidence of insurability. That's a pretty tricky one. I put yellow. Oh, me. That's actually me and somebody else. I'm not actually playing. Okay, more than half got this right. Let's see where we are. And we're almost at the end. I think there's only one more question, maybe 2. Okay, the top 2 are staying the same. LAA, Leah, and Chris. Jazz, Suze, and Priscilla, welcome to the top 5. I think this is the 5th and final question. When are new enrollments available to send to providers via a CCB? After open enrollment is closed, after open enrollment is initiated, after open enrollment is finalized, whenever you feel like it. After open enrollment is finalized. Okay, more than half got that right. Let's just see who's on top. And we will contact you after the show, get you your Apple Watch. Chris. Oh my gosh, Chris. Okay, you shot up. Priscilla, you shot up from 5th place up to 2nd. And Jazz in 3rd. We do have prizes also for Priscilla and Jazz. We're down to the final slides now.
In the final slide, we would like to thank Dovetail. Dovetail has been here for us all along. Dovetail provides HR service delivery software that reduces the number of questions into HR by over 50%. Dovetail also provides emergency response management software that provides HR with the tools to manage all coronavirus-related questions from employees, along with symptom checking and contact tracing. Dovetail is tracking COVID-19 case volumes from HR teams globally. To learn more, please visit dovetailsoftware.com. Thank you, Kane, and thank you, Dovetail.
All right, Kane, I know you said you have several mute buttons. You and I are going to do a making of the sharing show video at some point so people have an idea exactly how many mute buttons you have. Are you able to find?
Excellent. Well, thank you, David. Thank you, Kelly, Logan, Teresa, and special thank you to all our guests for speaking and sharing on the show today. And just looking at the chat, it's a great interactive show again today. So as always, we will publish this on our YouTube channel. Please head over, click on the like and subscribe, and you'll be notified when this episode is posted live. Looking forward to seeing everyone again in 2 weeks' time. All that's left to say is everybody have a great workday.